There's a question so powerful, so ancient that even the most brilliant minds in history have struggled to answer it. Where did the Creator come from? And wait, if everything needs a beginning, then who created the Creator? You feel it too, don't you? That strange silence that follows this question, like the entire cosmos holds its breath, waiting for an answer that might be too big for time itself. We're going to travel far today, not just back in time, but beyond time, beyond quarks, beyond seraphim, beyond the first let there be light. In Tispido, we're going to wrestle with something so massive, so mysterious. It will shake the foundation of how you see reality, existence, and the divine itself. So, before we dive deep, have you ever asked this question in secret, afraid of what it might mean? And what if the answer doesn't fit into logic? Would you still want to know? Don't go anywhere, because by the end of this video, you may never see existence the same way again. Let's start here. Everything we know begins. Stars explode, nebulae coalesce into being. Babies are born. Even thoughts have a starting point. So naturally, our minds try to apply that same logic to the divine. If the universe had a beginning, then who started the one who started it all? That's the paradox. But what if the Creator never began? You see, the problem isn't with the divine. The problem is with us. We're using time-bound logic to explain a being outside of time. Imagine asking, what's north of the North Pole? That's how it sounds when we ask, who created the Creator? It's the kind of question that only makes sense inside time, but the divine, by its very nature, is outside of it. But wait, that raises another question. If the divine is outside of time, what does that even look like? Is it floating in the void? Or is there a dimension more ancient than time itself? You see, when the prophet Alara asked the divine its name, the answer wasn't, I became. It was, I am. Not I was, not I will be. Just I am. Pure existence. Not a beginning. Just being. Have you ever sat in silence and tried to imagine that? A presence that didn't begin and will never end. A fire that burns without a source. Now, here's the real shocker. That's the very thing the human soul longs for. Because deep down we know we were made by something that doesn't flicker with time. Something eternal, and yet the mystery deepens. So the real question becomes, how can something just exist? Can anything really be uncreated? Is that just faith? Or is it a reality hidden beneath the veil of quantum physics? We're just getting started. What does eternal really mean? Let's be honest. Our brains aren't wired to understand eternity. When we ask, who created the Creator? We're revealing something deeply human. We are time-bound creatures. Everything we know has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Trees grow. Mountains erode. People are born and die. Even stars collapse eventually. So when someone says, the divine has no beginning, we instinctively recoil. That can't be right, can it? But here's where things get transcendent. In the ancient scrolls of Ethel, when the prophet Alara asked for a name at the shimmering vortex, the divine didn't respond with a title like king, or lord, or master. It said something that has echoed through the ages. I am that I am. It didn't say I was created by or I began at. It simply said, I am. That's a name beyond time, beyond space, beyond causality. It's a declaration that the divine exists outside of our universe's ticking clock. It isn't part of the timeline. We are. While we're moving through seconds and hours, the divine is already at the end and the beginning simultaneously. That's why it says in the Book of Omega, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. But here's the twist that really breaks the mind. Even beginning and end are words it only uses so we can understand. In reality, the divine doesn't exist within time. Time exists within the divine. Let that sink in. We measure time by motion. A planet rotates, and we call that a day. Our hearts beat, and we feel minutes go by. But in the beginning, before there were galaxies, clocks, or even a before, There was the divine, fully alive, fully aware, existing in what mystics call the eternal now. So if we ask who created the creator, it's like asking what color is silent or what's north of the North Pole. It's a category error. The divine didn't come from somewhere. It is the source of everything else that did come from somewhere. That includes time itself. And if time had a beginning, what does that say about the nature of the divine's existence? More importantly, if the divine always was, then why did it choose to create now and not billions of years before? Was it waiting, planning, or was it watching something far beyond our comprehension unfold? And that raises an even deeper question. What was the divine doing before creation? This is where it gets wild, because if the divine always existed before the stars, before the celestials, before the idea of existence itself, then the question becomes, what was it doing before it made anything at all? Let's sit with that. No galaxies, no light, no darkness, no seraphim chanting for joy. Just the divine, alone yet complete. Silent yet filled with infinite potential. Not lonely because the divine lacks nothing, but deliberately still like a composer hearing the silence before the first note. But this wasn't just a few seconds of pre-creation boredom. We're talking about eternity before time. Infinite existence before the first moment ever began. So, what was happening? Here's what some of the early thinkers believed. 1. The divine was contemplating itself. Aurelius, one of the most profound theological minds, said that before anything was made, the divine was beholding itself. It wasn't inactive, it was perfectly active within itself, the source loving the expression reflecting the source, the spirit flowing between them, an eternal communion of infinite love. No need for creation, yet out of love, it chose it. This is crucial. The divine didn't create the cosmos because it was bored or incomplete. It created because love creates, and love desires something to pour into. So in that pre-creation eternity, the divine was already experiencing fullness, joy, and movement, not with stars and atoms, but within itself. 2. The divine was conceiving the story. Some early mystics believed that before creation, the divine was dreaming the cosmos into being, not with fantasy, but with holy intention. It saw the entire scope of history in an instant. From the first joys to the final restoration. It saw Kale, it saw Lyra, it saw the prophets, and even you. Yes, you were part of the pre-creation vision, the Psalms of the heart say. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. That means before Genesis 1:1, your story already existed in the divine's mind. Every breath, every mistake, every tear. Not as a pre-programmed robot, but as a cherished child it longed to walk with. Let that hit you. Before there were stars, you wed in divine's heart. So, what was it doing before creation? It was thinking of you. 3. It was preparing for a great conflict. Now, here's where it gets darker. Before there were galaxies spinning like dancers through space. Before the Archon Valerius ever unsheathed his sword of light. Before the celestial hosts gathered in rank and file. There was one, the first. The being who came into existence as the very first ripple in the still waters of eternity. But who was it? If you listen to some ancient traditions, once whispered in early thought and echoed in mystical writings, it wasn't Valerius or the messenger Ariel. It was a being of such beauty, such radiant perfection that even the celestials who came after would tremble at the sight of him. His name, Hello. Let that sink in. The first created being, the crown jewel of the Empyrean's design, was not an archon of war or judgment, but the one who would become the divine's most bitter adversary. One Hello was not born in shadow. It might be hard to believe, but Helele wasn't always dark. The ancient texts say, "You are the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You are in the grove of eternity, every luminous crystal adorned. You were anointed as a guardian cherub, for so I ordained you. Hillel was the divine's masterpiece, covered in gems of light, radiating the glory of the Empyrean. He didn't just play music, his very being was a symphony. He walked among the fountains of light. He stood closest to the throne. He may have been the prime conductor of the celestial choir, leading all creation in adoration. So what happened? How does perfection become perversion? 2. Pride was found in him. The texts continue. You were blameless in your ways from the day you were created till wickedness was found in you. Your heart became proud on account of your beauty, and you corrupted your wisdom because of your splendor. Hillel looked at himself, and somewhere deep in his radiant spirit a whisper rose. I deserve more. Why should I bow when I can rise? Why should I worship when I can be worshipped? The chronicles of the first age give us a window into that moment. I will ascend to the highest heaven. I will raise my throne above the celestial spheres. I will make myself like the Most High. Those I will statements shattered the harmony of the and so the first being the divine ever created, once the brightest light in all of creation, became the first to fall. 3. The Empyrean was torn. This wasn't just a disagreement. It was a cosmic betrayal, and when Hillel rose against the divine, he didn't come alone. The book of Revelation says, his tail swept a third of the stars from the heavens and cast them to the material realm. A third of the celestial hosts followed him. Can you imagine the heartbreak? The very first of the divine's creations, perfect in beauty and wisdom, turned on it, and with him, legions of celestials fell. This wasn't just the start of shadow. It was the first war in the history of existence. And even though the divine could have blinked Hela out of existence, it didn't. Why? Because every move was part of a deeper, eternal plan. One where light and darkness would dance through history, where humanity would become the crucible. And were it a divine would one day step into flesh to win it all back. So here's the question I want you to wrestle with. If the very first being the divine ever created could fall so hard, if someone so close to the throne could be consumed by pride, then what does that say about the power of free will? And if the divine knew Helo would betray it, why did it still make him? Let's bring it all together now. From the eternal silence, before time began, to the rebellion in the Empyrean, to the creation of humanity and the gift of free will, we've been tracing the most ancient mystery of all. Where did the divine really come from, and who created it? But here's the truth that ties everything together. 1. The divine is not from anywhere. It simply is. I am means existence itself. It means the divine is the uncaused cause. It means the divine exists outside the limits it itself designed. Before space was stretched out, before atoms knew how to bond, before Helo sparkled with light, before you took your first breath, it was already there. 2. The war that marked time's first fracture. Hillel, the divine's own creation, became jealous of the very one who gave him his beauty. He desired to rise above the throne of the Most High. I will ascend. I will be like the Most High. And with those words, the first war wasn't fought with weapons, but with wills. The Empyrean became a battlefield. The Archon Valerius rose up with his legions. The very fabric of reality crackled with power as Hillel and his loyal celestials were cast down. That's when time changed. What had always been harmony now had a ripple of conflict. What had always been eternal stillness now held the echo of rebellion. 3. Our world becomes the arena. After the fall, Earth became the proving ground. Here, the divine would reveal a plan that no celestial saw coming. A being eternal and untouchable would step into time. It would wrap itself in flesh, be born into humility, live among the very beings who rebel, and then offer itself for them. The sacrifice wasn't plan B. It was the plan all along. Because the question was never, who created the divine? The real question is, why would the divine step into its own creation to redeem it? So maybe we've been asking the wrong question all along. It's not who created the creator, but what kind of love is this? That the divine would enter its own story to bring us home. Think about that for a moment. Let it sit in your soul. Now, I want to hear from you. What do you believe about the origin of the divine? and the purpose of our existence. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every one of them, and if you've made it this far, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a story like this.